Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to run through an easy Linux machine on TryHackMe called LazyAdmin. It's free room, it's been around for a little while. We have to get a user flag and we have to get a root flag. So machine's up, VPN is on, just going to assign the IP to a variable and then kick off an nmap scan, which I'll do quite verbosely. We won't ping the machine because I know it's up. Do it quite fast. Do all ports. This doesn't cover port 0. We will do service discovery, run safe scripts, get information about the open ports and the reason, export that in all three formats. So this will be nmap, grippable nmap, and XML. Call it LazyAdmin full, and then the IP address, and that should give us everything we need. Host discovery is disabled. Wow, that's fine. I'll take some notes as we go. Just gonna make an assumption that that's going to be SSH, but I guess we'll find out, and we'll make an assumption also that that's going to be HTTP. And with that assumption, before we get sort of too much further, I'm going to power up Firefox and Burp Suite just to sort of sit in the background and grab everything while we're looking around. Ooh, okay, let's just look at our results. So we will grab all of that and we'll chuck it into Sublime and check what we're dealing with. We are dealing with OpenSSH 7.2p2 on Ubuntu, HTTP, running Apache 2 and the default page for Apache 2. So not much to see from the services perspective. Basically we got two things open, so I'm thinking we're gonna go brute forcing on that. And I will use Ferrix Buster. Word list, I will use one of the dirbuster word lists directory listing 2.3-media because I like that one. We will have a look for PHP files and text files, do 50 threads, output it to a file called Ferrix initial. We'll just use a random user agent on it, kick that off and see what we get. And while that is running, let's just have a look at this default page and see what it says. Looks pretty default, so let's have a look at the page source, just see if there's any comments stashed in it. Look like they might contain useful information. Doesn't appear to be anything. Just see if there's a robots.txt file. There isn't. So we've got a content directory. Let's see what's in there. While we're doing this, I'm just gonna make a couple of additional notes. I'm just going to note down the nmap command that we used and also the Ferrix Buster command that we used. Okay, so on that content directory we have a CMS called Sweetrice installed, which looks like it's probably not supported anymore, which is interesting. Let's have a look at the page source for this page. You can see we've got a JavaScript file called Sweetrice and a JS directory. So we will just go and have a look at that. I mean, that looks a lot like JavaScript to me. We'll have a kind of a good look through that, but oops, over there. That wasn't what I wanted to happen. What I wanted to happen was this. Let's see if we can browse that whole directory, which we can. Okay, so that's, I guess that's kind of a finding. Directory browsing is enabled on content.js, and I might just take a screenshot of that. We can just have a look at those other JavaScript files to see what they might do. They may or may not be interesting. They're not, but it's a beginner room, so I'm expecting that we're not really needed to do that. But on a proper test, we'd probably actually really go through those and have a look at the functions. Then in there's an images directory. I would assume we can probably also browse content images. Let me see in there. There is a sitemap XLS file. open that mouse pad and see what that does. It looks like a pretty standard kind of sitemap file, I guess. Nothing particularly interesting in there to me, but I'm not a web dev, so it might be something much more useful for someone else. There's a capture.php file which generates a new capture image each time, which could be interesting if we have to bypass a capture at some point, I guess. Should probably just screenshot that one as well. What else we got? So we can look. There's a license file, license.txt, which gives us just a license as you would expect. There's a changelog, so we could actually have a look and see. We can probably see what version we get from here. Got version 1.5.1. There's an includes. I assume it's an includes directory, an INC directory, which does something we can also browse. Lots of PHP files in here, which would be worth having a look at. Probably this will be all of the PHP defining what the CMS does, I would say. Fonts, function, it's htaccess.txt. It's a MySQL backup folder, which we definitely want to have a look at. A bunch of PHP files, which at this particular juncture we can't actually see anything on. Nothing there, but we do have a MySQL backup, which is interesting. So we will download that to look at that later. So we'll copy that over here, and we will make a note of where we found that. Where did we find that? We also had directory browsing and content inc, which allowed discovery of that. So we'll have a look at that shortly. db.php, lots and lots of PHP. Another directory redirect, content AS. Let's have a look at where that goes. Okay, that gets us a login page to the web server. So we'll come back to that probably after we've had a look in that database backup. There's a content attachment directory, which could also be interesting. Let's have a look at that one. That has nothing in it, but if that is somewhere that we can upload attachments, that could be incredibly interesting, because we can browse this. If we can find a way to get files in there, we might be able to do something with that. Maybe a potential file upload path. So what else can we see? as-lib. What does that give us? So these will probably be the pages that make up the functions in the CMS. Anything particularly interesting in that? No, that's our JavaScript folder, and that is finished. So there's lots of interesting stuff in there that actually tells us exactly what directories we can list, so I might just take a note of that. So let's have a look at this MySQL backup PHP script. It's ASCII text with very long lines. Let's have a look in this with strings then and see what we can see. Could be a setup script. Stuff. This is writing stuff into the database. LazyAdmin website, author, LazyAdmin, keywords, description. So I'm guessing one of those, guessing that one's a username then. And it looks like we've also got a password here, which I just name that hash text. We'll have a look at what that hash might be. It's MD5 hash. Potentially then that means it's something we might be able to crack with Hashcat. And as always, I will just use RockU on it. Does it? Yes, it does. Cool. So Hashcat, crack that, and we have a password of password123. So we should probably make a note of that in our report here. SQL backup file disclosure of username, password is an MD5, and then we have the username, password, and we think the username is manager, and the password is password123. Before we go and try that username and password in our web interface, what I might just do is have a look at Searchsploit and see if we can find anything. It was 1.5.1 according to one of the documents that we looked at before. What have we got? So there's a CSRF attack, PHP code execution, there's backup disclosure, which I'm guessing is what we've already exploited, and then we've got an arbitrary file upload and an arbitrary file download. So let's just have a look at those. 40718, backup disclosure, blah blah blah, access all the backup and download them from that directory, inc MySQL backup, which slightly different from ours is because we had a content directory, but everything else, the rest of that is the same. So let's have a look at our arbitrary file download. Let's see what this one gets us. Into the file to download, AS time sign in. So this also looks like it's authenticated because you've got to supply a username and a password. What file to download, enter the name of file to save. So that part logs in, and that gets, so we might be able to use that to get maybe the password file or something. But let's have a look at the arbitrary file upload, see what that gives us. Something obviously discovered by the same team, authenticated again, so we need a username and password, which we have, so this is going to be useful to us at some stage. And what can you do? You can log in, and if you log in successfully, we'll try to upload a file, which will be this file here, which web file, so we can probably upload a PHP reverse shell with that, which should be quite useful. You can't see it because I'm in the way, but it is pointing us to, you can actually just see it down there. It's pointing us to a media center directory. So I'm just going to take a screenshot of this stuff just so we know what we're looking at, and I'm going to copy that and I'm going to chuck that over here so that we also know what we're looking at there. And now I guess we can come over here and try out our username and password combo and see if that actually gets us anywhere, and it does. Okay, so we have login success as that user manager with the password 123. So there's posts, comments, attachments. This is the actual directory, I guess, of that thing that we found before. The media center is what this the arbitrary file upload pointed to. We just look at that again. It's down the bottom. You might not be able to see that there. That's posting them into that attachment directory, which is the directory that we can't see here, but we'll probably paste those two. Okay, so what we can do in this case then is grab a PHP web shell. The Pentest Monkeys PHP reverse shell is included with the web shells stuff in Kali Linux. So let's just grab our IP address to start with, our VPN IP. Go and chuck this information in here. I'll set a different port. Just as a matter of habit, I like to use ports which are unlikely to be blocked outbound, so I usually use either 443, 80 or 53, which HTTPS, HTTP and DNS, because they are generally not blocked. And sometimes in CTFs you'll have specific blocks on ports just so that you can't use the typical 4444, and if you're doing an engagement in a real environment, there's a good chance they might have outbound filtering as well. If we just do that, we've got our PHP reverse shell, and we've got a way to upload that here from our arbitrary file upload exploit. So let's upload that and see if it works. And it doesn't. And why doesn't it? That's a good question. Why didn't it? I wonder if there's a filter of some kind which might stop us from uploading as our post, as our shell. I'm going to send that to repeater, but what did it say? Did we actually get in? We didn't get an error message in the, don't think we got an error message, did we? No. So maybe it's got a server-side filter and it just doesn't allow you to save PHP files, but it didn't say why. Okay, but that's cool, because that's probably why then. If we go, that's the one. If we go there, you can see the file names that they've used there. This PHP 5 is a pretty unusual thing to use for a file name. Well, it's not unusual, it's just another type of PHP format. But often, in my experience with CTFs, that's something that you can often get around PHP filters with. So because we've already got this here, I sent it to repeater so we can just send it again, and I will just change the name of the file and see if we can send that again, and we'll refresh this page and see if our shell turns up, and it does. So we've managed to arbitrarily upload this PHP file, and if I hover over it, you can't see down the bottom because I'm in the way, but I can copy the link, so that's pointing to that content attachment directory that we found earlier. So we'll copy that there, ready to go. And before we get started, we're just going to flick over here, and I'm going to set up, I'm going to use RL wrap with netcat to hopefully catch our reverse shell when we try to execute this. And it hasn't timed out instantly, which is usually a good sign. And there we go. We have a terminal, very limited sort of web shell. We can't access the full terminal properly. We've got no job control, but we're in here as data, which is the user that is generally running the web server software. So first things first, we've got Python. We have Python 3. So I'm just gonna stabilize this shell to actually get us a full TTY, so that we can run things like nano, we can run things like sudo su, we can get proper kind of command execution. So we will do that, and that puts us into bash. I'll drop back to our local terminal, and I don't actually know if I need to do that first or not. So we'll get our terminal to take raw input. Basically, we'll stop it from echoing, and then we'll move back to the application in the foreground, which is going to be our reverse shell, and then we will set that to xterm, and we'll change the number of rows and columns, and then we can start having a look around. So we know we are in here as data. First thing we'll do is have a look and see if we can find where our user.txt file, so we know we've got to hunt that. See if we can find it in a directory that we might have access to. So that'll be a user flag, which is in home IT guy. Could also look for root.txt, but the odds are that's not a directory we're going to have any form of access to. So if we go back to this one, we could also, nope. Is that the syntax for it? Yes, it is. So we can see everyone basically can read this file. So if we go into home IT guy, have a look what we've got there. There is our user.txt. So let's grab that, and that will get us the answer to the first question. Drop back there. I mean, that's obviously a lie because we're on the machine. Let's just add some more time to it and go back to our shell somewhere. Our shell's over here. So what have we got in this directory that could be interesting? Bash history is dumped out to dev null, so that's not going to be helpful. MySQL history we can't read. Admin obviously is a member of the sudo group. There's a file in here that's owned by root called backup.pl that everyone can read and execute, but no SUID bit set, so we can't actually run that as root, but we'll have a look at that. That might be something we can use to get to root. We've got a MySQL login.txt. Let's see what that is. That's rice, a random pass, so that is probably creds into MySQL. Access denied using password. Because it's not password. It's random pass. You can have a look through there. We've got sys, we've got website. So if we use website, show tables. What's interesting in there? Attachment, category, comment, item data, item, plugin, links, options. The options is probably going to be Okay, I wonder if we select star from the attachment, is that going to show us nothing? Okay, so we will select star from the options, and I realize that I've stopped taking notes, so that's a bit of a problem. This is the same stuff that we managed to grab from the SQL backup. There is our MD5 hash and our username manager there, so that's less useful. What we could do though is see if IT guy has used either of those passwords. We'll try password 123. Nope. Okay, we'll try that again, and let's try random pass, and that doesn't get us anything. So let's see what this backup.perl script does. So this is a Perl script that calls gets the system to run sh, and I guess it's passing it etc copy.sh. Let's have a look at what that is. That's also a file owned by root, but interestingly everyone's got write access to that one, so let's have a look and see what that one does. That one runs a reverse shell. That's a bash reverse shell, which is pretty neat. We either need to find a way to get to IT guy. We need to find a password or something for him. We can look for any files, type F. We can have a look for anything that might have the SUID bit set. Dump any errors out to there, and we'll ls la those also. See if we can find anything. Why isn't that working? Oh, it is working. It's doing exactly what I told it to do, which is great. So there's nothing in there that looks kind of out of the ordinary to me. What about u equals s? Does that? I think this one returns the group. So I think the perm 4000 returns anything with the, I guess it's the GUID set. So this would be the group, and this one I think will look for anything with the user set. No, same thing. They pretty much all look the same, don't they? In any case, that's not helpful. We could have a look and see if we can write to the password file, which we can't. We can see if we could write to the shadow file, which we can't, and we can't read the shadow file. sudo-l is something you'd usually use when you've got a user account, not something typically you'd see configured on something like www.data, but in this particular case it is, because I guess we're dealing with a lazy admin who just wants anybody to be able to run his thing script, I guess. I don't know. But in any case, anyone can run that script as sudo, which is pretty cool. And we know that that calls that other script, and we know that we can overwrite that other script. So if we take this information here, and we can do this basically the same, and if we echo this, and then let's go sudo backup.pl and see what happens. This happens. Let's just try random pass and password 123. New. Let's try nothing. Nope. What if we just try and run that? Cannot remove temp. No such stuff. Let's just do this then. Let's import 80, 10.4, 54.4. Echo that to etc copy.sh. Cat etc copy.sh. That's fine. Let's start another reverse shell. Nope. Not like that. NC nvrp on port 80. So actually, maybe we don't even need to try and call that with sudo. Maybe we can just go. No. I didn't run it correctly, actually. IT guy backup.pl. So I tried to run it. I just tried to run the command directly rather than running the command that www.data is actually allowed to run. So that should be a very different story, and that gives us a reverse shell as root. What did I run to? I have no idea. So, no. I'll run ip.a, and we will cat root.txt, and that will give us the evidence that we need to say we have successfully become root. So we can take that, see where we are. We're an IT guy. Let's go home root and have a look at what root has. Also bash history dumped out to nothing else in there. We need to do this in the correct place, and there we go. We have successfully exploited LazyAdmin. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you in that video.